This episode is brought to you by Sheath. You can go to sheathunderwear.com and discover the most comfortable underwear ever created. Now, what makes Sheath underwear different? Well, for men, on the inside of the underwear, there is a dual pouch. That means separate compartments for your manhood. Imagine a silky, smooth pouch on the inside that your boys slide right into that keeps you separate from your legs, so there's no more sticking, no more chafing, no more need for readjustment. We all know that little move you have to make to kind of peel the bad boys off of the leg. Well, with Sheath, that is a thing of the past. There are several fabrics to choose from modal to bamboo. My personal favorite is the bamboo. It's a newly launched product that everyone seems to really love. I highly recommend trying the bamboo Sheath underwear if you have not ever given yourself the gift of true comfort. Wearing these underwear truly sets a new precedent for what underwear are, and for most people, I think they end up switching entirely over to Sheath, because when you put on your old underwear after trying these, they just don't cut it anymore. You can try Sheath risk-free. There is a 100% money-back guarantee on your first pair. So go to sheathunderwear.com and use promo code TIMEWHEEL to save 20%. I've been involved with Sheath since its conception. It was founded by my brother, Robert Patton, who is a U.S. military vet, who during the course of his 2 tours to Iraq developed this product out of need. Need is the mother of invention, as he likes to say, and he did a great job bringing this awesome product to the world. Again, that's sheathunderwear.com, promo code TIMEWHEEL. This episode is also brought to you by Ohana Kava Bar. Go to ohanakavabar.com and check out their selection. Ohana means family, and it is spelled O-H-A-N-A, and Kava is spelled K-A-V-A. You can order directly from their website, and they will mail you high-quality kava. If you don't already know, kava is a plant medicine, an herbal supplement, a replacement for alcohol. It is an incredible experience. I have used kava for years now. I love it. It makes you chill, happy, vibey. It is a communal and ceremonial beverage to unwind with at the end of your day. If you haven't given kava a try, I highly recommend it. Again, go to ohanakavabar.com and use promo code TIMEWHEEL to save 10%. Their store offers classic kava, instant kava, kava tinctures, kava capsules, and more, all of which I have tried and all work incredibly well. ohanakavabar.com, promo code TIMEWHEEL.
Greetings. Accessing archive. Authorizing. Access granted. Accessing file.
We got it. So we are here with Navina and Narada. Really awesome to, be in y'all's presence. You're just amazing, glowing beings here. Just so happy that you could stop by today. Narada, I met you many years ago in the music scene in San Antonio. You have a project known as Aliens with Halos.
Yes.
And that is an incredible project, brother.
Yeah, we try to make conscious music in a relative way that's hip for people to understand. Transcendental, messages about divine relationships and introspective topics. So, it's based around the concepts of bhakti yoga. So that's what it started off as a group. There was a couple of us. Now it's just me. And now I'm particularly working with just people that are devoted to the same sort of path. We just did a song called Parma Karuna, which was a modern take on an ancient Bengali poem talking about relationship with Krishna and whatnot. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a big topic I want to get into. So as far as relationship with Krishna, well, this is one of your mentors, Navina.
Yes.
Tell us about him. How did you meet him? And then we'll hear from him.
We met in 2012. We were doing the Warped Tour. We were traveling around and we were teaching these
kids how to meditate.
Yeah, we're teaching in the middle of madness, mosh pits and everything, right? Perfect opportunity. But we would find out that most of them, they're all dealing with some sort of issue, but you'd always find a group of these concert goer teenagers that would just end up spending the whole day with us. There'd always be a couple at each show that would they'd pay the $80 ticket and they'd stay there and they just catch the vibe. And some of them, a couple of them, I still keep in contact with occasionally from Houston. So yeah, that's how I met.
Very cool. So let's hear from you, brother. Introduce yourself. Where are you from?
Yeah, I'm from a small town outside of Zurich, Switzerland. And I went to a boarding school in the Swiss Alps. And at the bright old age of 15, I dropped out of 9th grade and became a monk. And that's 40 years ago.
Wow.
So I've been traveling the world 20 times over and have been to the States from the early 90s, 90, 91 onwards, almost every year. Right now I help out with some spiritual centers in San Francisco and in the Bay Area. But
Lovely.
I just went on tour for 2 months to visit some friends like Bhagawan, and before I was in Houston, in Atlanta, down in Florida, New York, Detroit area, and Utah. Because of the whole COVID thing, it was kind of hard to just stay in one place because, as Bhagawan was mentioning, we did a lot of these tours like Warped Tour, also on college campuses, activist stuff. To just teach people how to meditate, how to get into spirituality, how to find themselves, find their center, self-empowerment. So now that a lot of the stuff is happening online, but I'm sure most of you also by now are getting a little tired of talking heads and zoom in, zoom out. So I just zipped out and went on a little tour to see some of my friends and see what they're up to, what projects they're doing. And yeah, it's been very inspiring to see the different endeavors and activities that are going on. Otherwise, I'm based out of India. I helped to build a school in India and ran a record label for 10 years, all kinds of genres, meditation music, lounge, chill out music, conscious stuff of all genres. And I'm mostly concerned with trying to find activists and trying to inspire and support them to make a difference. That's
Lovely.
basically what I'm about.
Wow.
Looking for spiritual entrepreneurs, people
Love
who
it.
want to make a difference.
That is so cool. Similar vibes here, a little bit of a different community that we're a part of. I was mentioning just before the cast that a large part of the Time Wheel community and the people that listen to the podcast are into plant medicines. Plant medicines and or psychedelics are kind of a different type of drug experience. It's not, smoking tobacco. It's not drinking alcohol. It's not doing these hard drugs that people know of. They rather kind of give you some type of glimpse of spiritual sight, some type of connection to the unseen forces, if you will, and give you a little bit more of a nudge of faith toward the spiritual mindset, the spiritual life. And for me, kind of being a musician, growing up in the music circles in San Antonio, Austin, there's a lot of, just the drinking, the smoking, the stuff that kind of doesn't really have much of a learning experience attached to it as much as a recreational, like, fun night out. But I've found that these plant medicines really have helped me to create a place and a space in my life to find time for meditation daily, time for detoxification daily, time for communicating with other people on a similar path like you guys. So I would just wanted to jump in to see, first of all, both of you guys are Krishna monks. Which maybe before you answer my question, you could tell me what a Krishna monk is, what is it you believe and do, and then maybe the view on psychedelics.
You want to answer?
So, a Krishna monk is a person who has dedicated their lives to pursuing the highest ideals. Krishna means the all-attractive, just like Christos means the anointed one or the beautiful one. So it's a Sanskrit word. And because God is the all-powerful, the all-loving, the all-beautiful, and he's also the all-funny and the all-musical. So we do that through the process of bhakti or devotional service. So a Krishna monk is a person who dedicates their life to pursuing that experience and sharing that experience with others. So it's not a selfish pursuit where it's about I, me, and mine, just in a little more suave and a little more esoteric way. But it's really about connecting to the source and through that being connected to each and every living entity in existence. That's why we're vegetarians. We don't exploit animals. We don't exploit plants. We don't believe in in exploitation, but we believe in service, because at the end of the day, selfless love is the only thing that actually touches the heart. So to experience and to share that love with others is our goal, is our pursuit, and for that we're ready to go the stretch.
Love it. So a lot of monks and people who practice, a spiritual path, there is some type of vow to not intoxicate the body. A lot of times that could mean, the basic intoxications, alcohol, hard drugs, etc. Do psychedelics and plant medicines fall into that category? Is that something a monk would avoid? Is it something you would use sparingly? Or what's the general view on plant medicines and psychedelics that kind of open your spiritual insight?
Sure. So spirituality and monkhood is not a black and white thing, or it's not a t-shirt or a zip code or a tattoo, but you start where you're at and then you go on a journey. And as we discussed earlier on, when you're on a journey, don't get stuck in one place and think like, hey, this is it. Has it ever happened to you that you like the band or the musician or the actor and you put his poster or her poster and her stuff up all over your room, and then a couple of months later you looked at that stuff and you went like, nah, not really, I don't think so, and you took it all down. So don't get caught up in the scenic route of going through whatever it is, plant medicine, esoteric stuff. It's all experiences, and as they say in California, it's all good if you keep on pursuing the ultimate goal. But if you say, this is the be all and end all, this is the absolute, this is as high as it gets, and I'm gonna, preach this and tell people that this is the topmost, then you're not only shortchanging yourself, but you're kind of misleading others. Because if you haven't gone the full distance, how can you tell others about the journey?
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate that pretty young on, already in my boarding school, I had some meditation and yoga teachers and musicians and who were quite dedicated to their practice. And in answer to your question, if you're dedicated to any kind of practice, whether it be music or art or science or whatever it might be, it takes a certain type of discipline. It takes a certain type of dedication. And that means that certain things that are not that conducive or favorable, you just leave them out because you have something higher that you aspire for. And that is natural. But there's no point in talking down or to try to judge or classify or label other people, because we're all in this journey of life and we're all trying to evolve to the higher stage of consciousness. So for some people to experience like for instance plant medicine will be tremendously helpful to get them unstuck from their squareness and from their oppression and their whatever situation that they're in.
Right.
But then again, if you see that a person might again become stuck on this new kind of,
Right.
situation, and that's just all there is
Yeah.
for that person, then it might also not really be that beneficial. So all I'm saying is go the journey, learn the lessons, and ultimately if we experience the highest form of high, the highest form of intoxication, the highest form of ecstasy, which is pure love of God, selfless, unalloyed, unconditional love. And with love, I don't mean romantic love. I mean, I want you to be well. I want you to succeed. I want you to flourish. I want you to live a full and optimum life.
Yeah.
Once you've experienced that, all the other experiences are pretty negligible and puny in comparison. Because they're still material situations and material substances that you're trying to expose yourself to. If we're part of divinity, if we're children of eternity, that means we're born perfect. That means I don't need any external addition of any type or form to actually feel my perfectness. All I have to do is get out of my own little head and reconnect with my heart. And that's what we mainly do through the process of chanting. So when we chant mantras like the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, that helps us to reconnect through sound energy, just like right now. We're all connecting through sound energy. And that's mantra technology. So this world doesn't work by mechanics, it actually works by sound. From the moment we're born till the moment we croak, it all works by sound. So if you learn how to communicate with kindness, with empathy, and with a service attitude, you will see how the universe starts to rearrange and realign itself, and new opportunity come up. Just like if you start realizing that you're not alone in the world, and try it out. Start greeting people, start smiling at people, start thanking people, start appreciating people. Try it out as a little mind exercise for this week and see how the world starts responding and how people start opening up and like, hey, wow, somebody's actually home. It's not just random moving zombies, but people are waiting. We're walking on that trail. What's that trail called?
I don't know. It's just the Greenway.
The Greenway. Every day we're going on the Greenway. And you try it out. You start smiling at everybody you meet and saying hello to them. 99.9% will respond very, very favorable.
Yeah.
But all it takes is for me to get over myself and to make the first step. And that's sometimes a little hard when we're hurting, when we're down, when we're not feeling energized.
Right.
So for me, being a monk means I get up early and I do my own spiritual practice, my own meditation, my chanting. And then after breakfast, I'm ready to go out and face the world and face myself, face the music, and do a little service. And it's quite inspiring to see how people actually can connect. Because what people are looking much more than ever is to connect, even though we have so much technology and we have so many platforms. But why is it that we still feel oftentimes disconnected? And so Thoreau said something very beautiful, that I'm feeling disconnected with the world and a lot of people because I'm disconnected with my own self, with my own center.
And that, I think, is a little bit of the point as to why I'm inquiring about these psychedelics, is because for the first time in my life, and it seems that I've run across a bunch of people as well that agree, that they had never felt connected to others or themselves until these experiences, the experience of magic mushrooms or LSD, these types of things that then somehow show you that you're equally a part of it all instead of separate from it. You know, you feel more a part of the world, a part of humanity, than like this closed off little box of consciousness in your head that's always second guessing things and always trying to protect itself and would rather not say hello to the people, about their day, because for whatever reason, society leads you down this path of feeling like you're alone. And then it's not until you get some type of epiphany on your own that is very hard to get without maybe a spiritual teacher or, being exposed to the right techniques to like open that up without any type of substance. But for the first time, in my life, on these couple of experiences I had when I was like 19, 20, 21, which was about a decade ago at this point, I wanted to say hello to everyone. Everyone was beautiful. Wow, I just want to know you. I just want to know who you are. Like, your heart really opens up to this level of appreciation, as that person is me and I am that person, right? It's like somehow or another it like clears the cache of all of the experiences that we get going through life up to a certain point, and you're able to see for the first time, like almost the spiritual interconnectedness between all of life, animals, plants, humans, and beyond, whatever it is, God, Krishna, consciousness, just like pure love. And it's like, it's easy to hear it, but people won't integrate it in their life until they have some type of tangible experience where they feel that love.
That's where the practice and that's where the discipline comes in.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you start practicing anything, I see you're a musician, you're dedicated to it, you've done your homework, you got the right kind of stuff. But it also not just takes, it's not just something that you can just order on Amazon, but you also have to put in the effort. And effort means not just hard work, but also enthusiasm. The word enthusiasm, entheos, means to be divinely inspired, to be possessed by God, to be an agent of love, which basically boils down to the fundamental question: do I want to love you, which means serve you, and do I want you to be well, or do I want to exploit you? And as they say, you can't, don't mix business with love, which means, it becomes a little strange, it becomes a little weird, a little counterproductive.
Sure.
So we have to introspect and look into our own hearts. What is my motivation? And oftentimes we may just be feeling lonely or confused or a little down. So I humbly like to suggest to all of our listeners here today, try out the chanting of the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And you will see how the universe will change. Things will start taking on a different shape. I mean, it worked for Steve Jobs. It worked for, Allen Ginsberg. It worked for George Harrison. It worked for a lot of the very inspired people who've done a lot of great art, a lot of great poetry or philosophy. I mean, it's free. No one's going to charge you for it.
Right.
It's not like some of these yogis who came and started selling mantras at $35 a pop.
Sure.
And the same thing with psychedelics. If people are doing it in a spirit of sharing and community, that may be, inspiring, But then oftentimes we experience the other side, of where it just becomes a business of,
Right.
who owns whom, and who does bigger and better.
Right.
Or a bad trip.
Or a bad trip,
Sure.
where you really get off on the wrong side.
Sure.
And then you start realizing maybe we can all do a little better.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been traveling a lot and counseling monks and trying to help them out, and I honestly can tell you we can all do better, starting with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because the ego can get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so every day to do a little selfless service and just trying to be of service to others and help them to grow and to reconnect with that spiritual source, that spiritual love that's coming from Krishna, the origin, is a meaningful practice and experiment, because it's through giving that we grow. As long as we stay in this expedient mode, this capitalistic mode of, I just want to get more stuff in my crib,
Mm-hmm.
because whoever has more toys, at the end of the game wins.
Sure.
But all the toys go back on the shelf. We're
Yeah.
only here for a couple of afternoons, and
Yeah.
after that, it's all meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even know the names of our great grandparents anymore,
Right.
or what they were all about, or what was their story.
Mm-hmm.
But people who have actually made a difference are people who followed some discipline and who sacrificed in order to do some service, to actually establish a legacy. So
Mhm.
by asking ourselves, what's my contribution, that has helped me kind of find my way,
Right.
so to speak. But it's still unfolding, so
Mhm.
I'm not saying I got the answers.
Sure.
But I like the point that you mentioned about the unity of all beings, and that's a big theme in the Bhagavad Gita,
Mm-hmm.
to see Atma, the soul, the life force that manifests through consciousness in all the universe, and to appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then that will reflect in certain attitudes and certain actions that we perform in our lives, that we say, okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
maybe gonna start with myself and clean up my own act.
Yeah.
And because that's where the rubber meets the road. I can't give what I don't have.
Absolutely.
So if you want to experiment, experiment on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you feel something is working great, then we can share.
Yeah.
So
I think it should start with the self, because there's a couple of quotes. One is, if you want to change the world, first change yourself.
and that's the toughest change
Yeah.
that ever
I
happened.
wanted to add something too. Like,
Go ahead.
there's two things. Like, I think there's this huge misconception that spiritual life is this peaceful, blissful, easygoing thing. Like, we're all spiritual, no disagreements. We're all just on the same wavelength. And I'm just kind of just in my own.
And there's no activity, there's no action.
Yeah. I'm feeding off what you said, because I was thinking about it. Like, it's not like I chose to become a monk, get a crazy haircut, throw some bed sheets on, and just say like, hey, that's it, I'm there.
We're a bunch of cool bees.
Yeah. So it's like, it just kind of happened. And I think a lot of it is based off of what Navina was saying, and which is desire, right? Like, we all have this desire for inner peace, for comfort, naturally, to enjoy, and that gets curved around into exploitation. But going back to my original point is that I feel spiritual life is anything but peaceful 99% of the time, because I'm just not there yet. Like, that's the whole point, is I'm trying to get there. And it does become comforting. It does become real. It does become easier when I have relationships that are meaningful, and we're all getting through that difficulty together. And we're seeing our shortcomings, and we're helping one another rather than bashing one another over the head. So that's one point, was that it's just...
In other words, a struggle can also be peaceful and
Yeah.
blissful.
If I'm in that van doing Warped Tour with 5 other guys that I really don't click with, and we don't have the same, you go on your tour, if everybody's wanting to do their own thing, it's hell. But if all you guys are have the same sort of vision of elevation within one's consciousness, then it makes any challenge or difficulty more of a lesson, more of a welcomed experience and realization than just some titter-tattering around and, having a difference of opinion and, okay, you don't agree with me? Well, we're not friends. So I think for me, spiritual life, especially it being not so conducive on this side of the planet, is anything but peaceful externally and glorious, a good chunk of the time. Not to say that that doesn't exist. I have my moments, but due to my conditioning and my covering and my expectations and my selfish desires, I'm speaking for myself, I limit that I make things more difficult. So it's accepting that, because a lot of times people come into a spiritual path and they just want everything quick, cheap, easy, fast. I want to feel it. And it's just not going to ever be that way. We have to really take out a lot of muck from our heart. And so while you're going through this difficulty, which comes to another point I wanted to express, is like when you can legitimately give selflessly as you're going through this change and this process, that's where I feel a lot of the rubber hits the road, and you get these realizations like, wow, this is a powerful taste. Like here I am unwrapping all this muck, facing myself, which is like difficult. And then I can see someone over here that has that desire and they're coming into it, they're on their path, and I'm able to give to them. I think that's when you can make some rapid spiritual advancement. And when I heard these two words together, spiritual advancement, it really struck me, as an aspiring monk in the beginning and spiritual practitioner, is that I can actually advance spiritually, and there's a practical way of doing so, but it comes with being able to weather those storms. Right. It's a difficult place. United States is difficult. These times especially are difficult, and they're not. We have to see what the end goal is too. What's the goal? What's the process? What's the relationship? All these things, but being able to tie it in with the community is extremely important, because it's not conducive. This world is not conducive towards spiritual perfection. Although it can be, but by nature, material energy is not something that is going to be so conducive for most people. They have to learn how to work with it and control it.
Yeah, that reminded me, the point you were making reminded me of the old saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together with people, And it's so true, because in my life, I would have felt very alienated and crazy if it weren't for my community of like minds that can share, this experience of seeing music as like one of the highest forms of art or transformation, you know what I mean? And that's what we've built with Time Wheel, is music as art, music as tools to help us transform ourselves and transform the community. And I did want to ask, and I actually have a bigger overarching question I'm about to get to, but you mentioned a mantra earlier. I'm curious what your thoughts on mantra are. What is happening when you mantra? Is it, you're calming your brainwave state down to a different delta, theta, alpha, or whatever? Is it God starts looking at you, like Krishna would start looking at you and giving you some favor or some grace because you're praising him? What is it that you believe mantra is doing?
Thank you, Matt. Just like if I say, Matt, you start paying attention, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So, in a similar way, if we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna starts paying more attention to us. And relationship means that we want to interact. And that is communicated. And you can do it also non-verbally through energy, yet primarily it's done through sound. So the word mantra has two parts in Sanskrit. Man means manas, or the mind, and tra comes from trayate. It means to free or to liberate our mind. Mantra is to liberate or to free the mind from its attachments. Like right now, if I ask you, are you here, Matt, or are you everywhere? And you ask a lot of people, and they will say, well, a bit of both, a bit all over the place. Like I still got laundry to do, and I need to buy some stuff, and I haven't done my homework, haven't paid my bills. Where's the dog at? So So mantra helps us to disconnect from all the attachments and all the things that are getting in the way, and to reconnect with the source, with Krishna, with the source of all love, all joy, all pleasure, and all happiness. So it's a simultaneous disconnecting from the superfluous and reconnecting with the source. And it's also prayer, that we're asking for grace, for love, for empowerment, and for service. Because if you have, like I can see, you got a certain idea, you have a certain mission, so to speak. And if you have a mission, if you have a cause, then you have meaning, you have purpose, you have something to look forward to, you have something that gets you out of bed in the morning.
Wouldn't that be called your dharma?
Yes, but then there are dharmas in different levels. There's dharma on the level of just social duty, like you gotta be good to your family, to your bros, to your country, to the IRS, etc., to your teacher. But then there's the higher dharma, which is the swadharma, the actual true dharma or inherent nature. Dharma doesn't mean religion or duty. It actually means nature. Like the dharma of fire, it's giving heat and light. The dharma of water is that it's, liquid and life-giving and nourishing. So to find out our original dharma means we have to really go deeper into the process of self-realization. What is actually my inherent nature? What will give me true lasting happiness? Because we have all experienced states where we were totally ecstatically happy without any substances, without any external influences. We could have been alone somewhere on a mountain. And sometimes you're in the middle of a big crowd and you have all the toys and you have all the substances that you want, and you feel totally disconnected and unhappy. So that shows it's not about the externals. It's about making that connection. Just like this microphone, if you just pull one wire, it goes flat and the sound disconnects. So in a similar way, if I learn this art of mantra technology to reconnect, not just when I'm chanting, but after a while, it becomes like a continuous loop, that it becomes like your baseline, the way how you roll through life. So the next time somebody cuts you off in traffic, you not start flipping birds and screaming and yelling or trying to chase him down or cursing at them, but you just start saying the mantra, which means, hey, I wish you well. I love you too. Not like, hey, dude, you got it coming, like crash and burn, baby. Because that's not really,
Well, that's you. You're telling yourself crash and burn.
Yeah, exactly. Because whatever is in your hand, that coal burns you. That's gonna hurt you. So to get rid of that negativity means also getting rid of my presumptuousness, of my entitlement mentality, of my insecurity. And that means I have to keep on peeling the onion. And that means I may cry a little bit in the process, but it's worth it. And ultimately, when we get down to the core, we realize we're all part of divinity. We're all God's children. And if we connect through the mantra, through selfless service, then it can become pretty blissful. It can become pretty ecstatic. So for me, that's what is mantra, and that's why I love to get up early and practice my mantra and teach others about this mantra technology. Like when we were on Warped Tour, we had over 10,000 kids who sat down with us and who chanted and who got an experience of the mantra. And we got a lot of feedback that people really felt it made a difference. It gave them something. And many kept it up in their lives.
It does. That's why I try to stay in contact with Narada, because I knew him by Brian.
Because the mantra connects us. The mantra keeps us together.
It's personal.
Yeah.
It's not just it's a sound vibration, but it's literally an incarnation of God in the form of sound vibration. So it's personal. I mean, it's there, you know, where you just, as he was given the example of saying your name and you react to it, but everything is contained within this mantra. I mean, I don't have much else to say.
Because if you say, hey, dude, or you the guy with the black shirt, you may say, hey, I'm not the dude, and there's plenty of guys with black shirts, you know?
Right.
So it's not that personal.
Right.
In a similar way, if people just say God or Almighty or even Om, which is an impersonal sound energy, but when you actually bring it to the personal level, then that sweetness, that love, that relationship comes out. And that's really what gives you satisfaction.
Right.
You're not just floating in dudeness, because, you know, that's maybe okay, but it's not that great at the end of the day. You know, you can do better than that.
Right.
So you want to know who is the person behind the shirt, who is that all loving, all beautiful, all merciful, all compassionate, you know, divinity.
That is one of my next questions I want to get to, which is, who is Krishna, you know? But before we get into that, I did just want to say this, and maybe I should have said this more at the beginning, but my introduction into the Krishna mantra was at Imagine Books and Records probably 5 years ago at this point. And Narada was, you know, doing a workshop where we were chanting the mantra, and then afterwards you served banana bread. And not only during the mantra itself, but then after, when I came home, I remember I had to text you and I had to be like, yo, dude, you know, happy we met. That mantra was awesome. I feel great. But did you put something in that banana bread? Because I am lit up. Like, I felt like
you had the buzz.
I was on, yes.
Feeling there was something going on.
Yeah, I was buzzing. And it felt psychedelic. And that was the closest thing I could come to.
Oh, yeah. Well, just to warn you folks, if you want to share your love, then you cook vegetarian items with love and devotion, and you offer them to Krishna by chanting the mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then you share it with whoever you meet. And you will see how people are like, hey, dude, what did you put in this? You know? And you say, LND. What's LND? It's love and devotion.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that knocks your socks off. And that's the stuff everybody's looking for.
Right.
Because it's not something you can buy. It's not something you can trade. It's something that you got in your heart.
Yeah.
But the price, and they ask, what's the price? How can I get it? I say, the price is sincerity. Can you afford it? And I think everyone can. Yet it requires a little bit of introspection and humility. And oftentimes, if you try to find it in your dictionary, it may not be there anymore, you know? And so we have to relearn some of these things that were natural or inherent to our being, but yet because we grew up in the world of names and we started identifying with the rat race and trying to be somebody instead of just trying to be, we became a little confused about a few things. So mantra helps us, and also prasadam, or spiritualized food that has been offered to the Supreme, can help us to experience that higher consciousness, that higher vibration, instead of just going somewhere and, you know, just throwing some money or some plastic on the counter and shoving something down your throat mindlessly while doing a bunch of other things. To have something that has been prepared with love and devotion and offered and shared with conscious benevolence.
Right.
It's like a whole different experience.
Yep. It is.
Yeah, we call it intentional cooking. So like my wife and I, that's where, you know, we're going to be making different bars, and we do cooking classes online and whatnot. But like he's saying, being fully aware. But one point I wanted to make is you can do this with anything. You know, if you're a musician, you can take this same concept of, as he said, L&D, love and devotion, and you can do that with your music. Your music can be an offering. Raising your children can be an offering. Going to work can be an offering. And so that's Krishna consciousness, is you're being able to dovetail and or connect all of these activities in our day-to-day life for a higher reasoning, cause, purpose, and we become more enthused. It's like a daily hygienic process for spirituality. So the cooking, everybody's got to eat, right? So most people aren't ready for this sort of dialogue. Most people aren't ready to chant. Most people aren't ready to go philosophically deeper. But everybody likes a chocolate chip cookie, you know, like, so let's do it, you know, like, however we can get in, you know, to establish friendship with the community. Because I think around that time, too, I was probably a little bit more hard up, like more fanatical, more closed off. Like, the whole world needs to kind of have this sort of way. But I think one of my own personal, you know, realizations over the years is that you are who you are, people are who they are, and just become friends. Like, I don't believe in this whole kind of ideal that we all have to have the same exact life, profession. It's either in my religion or you're out of my life, you know? So I've kind of lightened up too at that point. And I've found that the easiest way to make friendships in general is just through giving foodstuffs that I've prepared with as much love as I could. And it's a great way to get into somebody's heart, let the barrier down, and to be, this is a key word, submissive. We always hear that in a negative context, but to genuinely be submissive to this sort of positivity, rather than to be held down by my false ego, and to go out of my way and make a little extra effort to actually serve someone. It goes a long way. That little kind gesture, you know. We've done it so much, and I bump into people and they're like, hey, we had your banana bread or pasta like 7 years ago. Or I've met people that I was talking to 8-9 years ago, and they're like, you still really kind of impacted my life, or y'all did. I'm not tooting my own horn, but it's just like, any of us, we don't realize how much of an impact we can make with just a small, simple gesture.
Well, with that, it got me to look into the Bhagavad Gita. It got me to look into Vedic cosmos. It got me to try more mantra. And I had already been doing mantra before I met you. It was more in the yoga tradition, Om, you know, Satnam, these types of things I had done for a while. So I was already kind of primed to receive the experience that night. But you know, something about the word Krishna, the way when you say it, it makes you feel it almost in your heart, almost immediately. And of course the tones that you were chanting, and the drumming, and then, you know, the cherry on top, which was, you know, the banana bread that seemed to deliver some type of buzz, was, you know, profound, to say the least. And I haven't become a Krishna monk, but I have certainly looked into it, and I almost identify, so because I kind of look at several Eastern traditions: Taoism, Buddhism, yoga, and the concept of Krishna or the Bhagavad Gita. I draw from all those in my daily life. I feel like they all have a lot of crossover, and sure, they're pretty distinct too, but they have a lot of crossover, you know. So super awesome. But so to get into the real meat of the discussion, or vegetables of the discussion, is who is Krishna? Tell us the story. Who is Krishna? How did you learn about him? How did you discover him? What is he to you? And how can we bring some people who have never heard of Krishna, you know, on board his journey as far as understanding who he is and what, you know, like where he stems from?
Thank you, Matt. So Krishna is love. As we earlier explained, the all-loving, all-beautiful, all-kind, all-merciful, all-compassionate love that is coming from the source, from divinity. So Krishna, he appears in different times, in different planets, to different people, in different forms, in order to show his love and to reciprocate the love and the offerings of all his parts and parcels. So Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago in a town called Vrindavan in India, and he lived in that area for about 125 years. So he's not just a mystical person, but he's also a historical personality. He spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna before the Battle of Kurukshetra. These are all historical records. These battles took place, these kings lived, these palaces are still there,
Right.
these towns, you can still visit them. So it's not just some person who sat on a mountain and got struck by lightning, or, got sick and tired of writing sci-fi and wanted to come up with a religion because he thought it's more money or it's cooler.
Sure.
So, as you've mentioned, there's a lot of crossover in all these disciplines because, the sun is the sun. There's different words for it in different cultures, but it's a source of all heat and light in the universe. So in a similar way, God or Krishna is the same personality in all the different cultures and traditions. It's just people have different names for it. And that's perfectly fine. Just like,
Would Christ be a one?
Yeah, absolutely. The anointed one. Christ is one way of saying Krishna in a
They
different,
sound
in a
and look
different
similar.
language. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But like my friends call me something different than Navina, and my mom calls me something different, and some really close friends really call me something different. I'm the same guy.
Right.
So how can we go from good to great and then to cosmogonal? And that's the question. And that's where bhakti, or that selfless love, comes in. So Krishna is the source. He's the supreme personality of Godhead. And there's Radha and Krishna. So divinity is both masculine and feminine at the same time. And the Bhagavad Gita is the words that Krishna spoke. And the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Purana, is the commentary on the Vedas. In the Upanishads, there is a lot of history, a lot of philosophy and wisdom that gives us more information about Krishna's teachings and how this whole process of yoga or reconnection actually works. And again, it's a journey. Some people get stuck on the physical. They want to look cool. They want to wear the tights and, take a shower and go home. Fine. Start off where you're at.
Yeah.
Then they become a little more inquisitive. They start asking questions. So they got into the Upanishads, the Yoga Sutras. They read, these texts. And it's mainly about the intellect and the mind. Then they start meditating and try to see, how can I realize that I'm different from this world, and how can I go more into depth. But then ultimately, all these things don't really touch the heart, because the heart is only touched by selfless love. That's the only thing that really hits the spot.
Yeah.
Everything else is everything else. And unless we can feel that love and we can share that love, it's all just basically treading water, biding time graciously. So for me, Krishna has appeared in my life when I was in a boarding school. I found some books like the Bhagavad Gita in my library, and one of my colleagues, my friends, he was already aware and starting to get into the practice, so he invited me to a temple. So I attended the service, and I really liked it. And I found exceptional people who were not just knowledgeable, but they were available and accessible, and they were ready to share their path and also their struggles with me. And I found that endearing.
Yeah.
So
was Krishna a human?
Well, Krishna is God, the Supreme Personality of God, but he appeared in a human form. He says man is made in the image of God. So he looked like human, yet he's of a completely different nature because of his transcendental or spiritual characteristic. Just to give you an analogy to try to understand this better, like you have an iron rod. If you place it within fire and you leave it there long enough till it becomes red hot, glowing, somebody may say it's still iron, but actually it's fire. So in a similar way, when we're in touch with divinity, we can again experience our original state, our original nature, even though we're still in this world and we still have this body and this mind.
Right.
But we can experience this original state of being, of consciousness. So Krishna comes into this world to appear, to to give us these teachings and to show his loving relationships with his friends, with his family, with everybody who he interacted with. And that's really beautiful. That's really exciting to see. A lot of the other teachers, they came at different times to give certain instructions and guidelines for people. Yet Krishna, he's not a wrathful or a hating God, but he plays the flute and he dances. And he plays with his friends, and he's got, he's got peacocks and cows and deer and a lot of animals. So there's a lot of relationships there, which is very attractive, and also it's very instructive, because one of the biggest problems we're facing nowadays is that we're detached, not just from ourselves, but also from nature, from our whole ecology, our whole habitat. And that's why there's so much disease and so much dissatisfaction.
Right.
Even though we have so much technology and so many zeros in the bank account, but if I can't enjoy or digest or process the food that I eat, then what's the quality of life that I'm living?
Yeah. So, okay, well, you tell me if this is accurate or inaccurate based on your learnings. But the way that I try to conceptualize Krishna or any spiritual being is that everything is vibration. Humans operate at a certain vibratory frequency where we are here manifest in this physical world. And yet, if you were to either do the practices or take the medicine, the plant medicine, or do whatever it takes to raise your frequency, you are then able to perceive that there are different planes of reality in which are also inhabited.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
so Krishna lives in this plane above the physical, and he is a person that just operates on this high frequency, and he can just say, hey, I'm going to jump into that human, or jump down into earth in this form, or take the place
God.
of...
He can be on all frequencies simultaneously.
Right.
Just like if you want to do cosmogonal music, you try to really not just give mid-range, but you try to hit all the highs and lows and whatever is in between
right.
in order to have that impact.
Right. So he's kind of floating in this like high frequency abode, and whenever he feels, hey, something on earth is, calling my attention, so my compassion towards these humans, I'm going to go and I'm going to show them the way, maybe.
Absolutely.
So he can materialize, whether it be as another human or even an animal or an experience or whatever it takes in order to show the way.
Or he comes personally in his original form.
And what does that look or feel like?
Whatever he wants it to be.
So to make sense to you, though, right?
It's like, yeah.
Because he wants you to listen.
Yeah.
And he has to reach out to you in a way that
like
you will listen.
If Hitchcock or Tarantino makes a movie, he can appear in that movie in whichever damn role he pleases to. Why? Because he's the dude.
That's cool.
And as the dude, he just shows up and peeks in, and then he's gone.
Right.
And everyone's like, was that him?
Yep.
No, that couldn't have been him. he just the director dude, he's some ugly guy.
Sure.
But no, he's above the rules. That's what it means, being the director. What to speak of being God.
Right. So our life and human existence is the movie, and he is the kind of director that has produced it, and therefore is beyond the production of it in the way that the director is beyond the production of the film, and can say, I'm going to tweak this because I have the final say, and I'm the editor or the director, so I'm going to appear in this scene just because I like this scene, and just because I want to be of help in this scene, or I want my character to appear.
Yeah, and on top of that, he's giving us freedom to act out our own scripts within our box of abilities and karmic, spreadsheet, and to live out our own daydreams, so to speak, and at the same time encourage us, inspire us, and remind us that we can do better, that we shouldn't get too much caught up in our role play, and identify with all the toys and all the situational struggles and successes that we're experiencing, but that we actually get in touch with that original, all loving, all beautiful personality. So that is his message, and that's why he appears. And it's very exciting.
And can't Krishna also become every other god somehow? Like the pantheon of every Egypt, we have these, Ganesha as an example.
They're all manifestations of his potency. They're all rays of his light, of his energy. But there's still a difference between the sun and the ray, between the source and the emanation, or the artist and the art. So if people say, oh, this is the all in all, like if somebody were to say, like Yamaha loudspeakers, that's the only thing that exists. And then another guy, no, Kabas, that's really where it's at, or no, Korg, blah, blah.
Right.
And they start fighting and beating each other over the head. But they don't understand that the original source is the same.
Yeah, well, in this example, it's the frequency that comes through any and all of those instruments, not the brand name on the instrument.
Yes.
It's the fact that it emits sound. And so these other demigods, or whatever you want to call them, are still shining the frequency of Krishna, even though they are their own independent person. But they kind of, have a relationship with Krishna. And sometimes maybe it's there's a little turmoil, because, for example, I watched almost the whole film of Little Krishna. Have you seen it? It's beautiful. It's cute. It's kind of like a Pixar animation of the world of, Krishna and the story. And it seems like there's a bunch of kind of like people that are at odds with Krishna. And they're like, hey, how can he do this? Because I'm the supreme, or whatever. And they have to go back and forth,
Well, the battle of good and evil is always there, and that's just part of the experience, and it's natural. That's just something that we have to deal with, and so Krishna is also doing that in a very sporting, in a very fun way, but of course he's not getting caught up in it and worked up about it like we do sometimes. That we think like, oh, he's my enemy, or he's my friend, or everyone's against me, or but he's showing us that chill, just play the flute and dance.
That was interesting, because it embodies a way to learn to try to be, which was that Krishna, like, clearly this sketchy figure is coming up. And Krishna almost doesn't see him as a sketchy figure. Remember, like, during this rope battle, and like this other like kind of guy is coming in because he wants to come manipulate the situation. But Krishna, instead of being the Almighty, he would seem to have known that. He says, "Hey, come on in,
bring it on,
be a part of this."
Let's play.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because it's so easy to get defensive in modern day when you've been wronged by this and that person, and you start to build protective barriers around yourself to try to have learned from your mistakes, quote unquote, and maybe not let people as close to you in, or this type of thing. But then Krishna in these parable stories is showing that, like, even the people that you would guard against should be welcome. And what is that learning? What is that teaching? What is that trying to tell us? Because there's so much about that could resonate with people and help them become more inclusive.
What I think about is a particular pastime where Krishna and Putana, it's kind of an intimate one, where there's a witch that comes to poison Krishna.
I remember that one.
And Krishna instead, he takes the essence. So the main lesson that I see in it is that we learn to see the good in everything. We learn how to love our enemies. It's like that's a very difficult thing. We learn how to see the good in everybody rather than the negative. It's so easy to see people's shortcomings, and often when we see those shortcomings in others, it's like you said, it's shortcomings that we have within ourselves. So somebody who's God conscious or Krishna conscious, they see that divinity in every person. That's the topmost platform,
right?
But sometimes out of humility and compassion, we have to come down from that platform, and we have to discriminate if we want to help people. And that will be really determined on our motivation or intention. Rather than just blast somebody to the moon because they spilt some milk, you can kind of maybe help compassionately correct somebody on how to carry that glass of milk properly.
Sure.
So a true teacher or a true compassionate person will have the right intention, and it may not seem like that externally. Maybe externally it may seem rough. A spiritual guide or mentor or guru or swami, whatever it may be, has to help correct their student or dependent. So there's two different kind of aspects. We have to see the good in everybody, and we have to have the right kind of intention. That's what when I think of Krishna, dealing with demons, yes, he does defeat him. I mean, it's God. He can defeat anything. But at the same time, he's extracting that essence, and he's sending them on their merry way. What better way to be defeated than by the hands directly from Krishna himself, from God himself. But it's all Leela. It's all... He gives them liberation. Yeah, he gives them liberation. It's all, like you said, it's all drama. This whole life is a big theatrical experience, right? So we have to make the best of it. If we just go around judging people...
Well, as a monk, where do you draw the line? Because what if, for example, this is just, pure example out of my mind. You go to a spot to meditate every day. Someone disturbs you in your meditation every day.
You have to look for a different spot.
You look for a different spot. Or, what do you do if somebody comes into your house and tries to, take something or be forceful or violent in your own house? You have to protect it. So we look at the essence of Bhagavad Gita. It took place on a battlefield. Krishna was empowering Arjuna to kill. This is very, very deep subject matter. Most people cannot comprehend God, killing, battlefield.
Right.
So it's like... anything can be used for the right purpose, right? So it's like, I can go out and I can kill people right now and I go to jail. But if I do it for the U.S. government and the military, I'm authorized to kill.
You get a medal.
You get a medal. So it's all under the right...
What's the intention?
Yeah, intention, direction, things like this.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and we all are on the battlefield of life, and we all have to navigate. And sometimes... don't hate the agents of your karma. Try to extract that little essence. Okay, what's the lesson in it? What do I need to learn from this? And sometimes it means be tolerant. Sometimes it means make a move, go somewhere else. Sometimes it means try to find a way how to come to some, compromise. Maybe that person is just hurting. That person just needs attention, and so it's case by case. It's situational.
And how much attention?
To know our own limitations, and to help them, sometimes means also tough love. It may mean we help them by chastising them, or by ignoring them, or by giving them some pointers or some good advice, but then leaving the situation. You have to see, and for that I have to be in touch with the Lord in the heart, because Krishna or Supreme Divinity is in my heart. And if I'm truly sincere in my practice, he will tell me what to do. He will guide me.
So
and we all have experience in that in our own life. Yeah, absolutely.
And then you ask for guidance.
Absolutely. And you become more introspective and more sensitive, and you want to be an agent of that compassion, of that change, and he'll tell you whether it's time to face it or it's time to deflect and to move on and go somewhere else and do something else. That's a moment to moment process.
Yeah, I think that's an empowering thing for people to hear, and myself too, because at times when you would deal with like a character that seems to frustrate, and yet in a spiritual path it's better to help them, you can only help so much before you realize that they're bringing negative energy to you, almost purposefully trying to dump it on you.
Sure, but
because
then at
you're
the same
quote
time,
unquote spiritual, so you can handle it.
Yeah, but then at the same time you move somewhere else, and then because your mind travels with you, then that same scenario in a slightly different way comes back at you wherever you go. It's like the rabbit and the and the turtle, and so it's like we can't escape our own destiny, or we have to do our homework. We have to start looking into the mirror and take a deep, hard look and say, okay, you know, where do I start? So the mantra really helps me on a daily basis to do my homework and to feel that love and that courage and that enthusiasm to actually take up that labor of love. Because if I don't do my work, how can I expect anyone else to do theirs? You know, I'm expecting people to do things I'm not doing myself. That makes me a hypocrite. And that's why right now we're not feeling the love, not on the level of politics, not on the level of the economy, certainly not on the level of social, human relationships. So why? Because we're not really so in the clear about our self-love. How much have I embraced and accepted and truly loved myself? Maybe I don't really know myself that well.
Well, as a spiritual person, how can one set boundaries for your own, you know, protection in a sense, but also that isn't going to upset people? Because I'm doing this, but it feels a spiritual thing to help this person.
Yeah, very good question. Very good question, Matt. Thank you. Yeah. So a couple of things. I got a lot of incoming, and I'm sure so do you and most of us. So, you know, on the phone, there's that little sign. It's an airplane. It's called airplane mode. So do yourself a favor, go into airplane mode for like at least 10 or 12 hours a day, where you just take a step back. Don't be in the action mode, but be the observer. And just deal with yourself and your own practice to be authentic, to actually be grounded. Otherwise, you just start spinning your wheels and making a lot of noise, like the kids with the motorbikes that go ring, 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 ring. They're not going anywhere. They haven't been going anywhere since ever, you know. Right. But that's not the point. The point is, if I'm just making noise on the internet and I'm just making noise in chat rooms or in social media, but I'm not really living a grounded and an authentic, a kind and benevolent life, because I don't have the wherewithal to detach myself from all this distraction, then I'm not really feeling it, and then I can't really give it. So number one, make sure you have quality time for your own practice every day. Number two, choose your battles. There's a lot of battles, there's a lot of causes, but they're not all yours to fight. So choose the ones where you can make a difference, that are really yours to fight. And for that, it's good to have some helpful friends who give you an honest assessment. You know, a friend is somebody who can tell you what you don't like to hear, but you still have to hear it because they're a friend. They can get away with it. Right. So make sure you have a few of those. Also, some mentors, some guides. If you're sincere enough, find a true spiritual master, a guru, who can actually guide you on the practice. That is very, very helpful. And then also through the process of selfless service, of doing something for others, that intuition comes, and then you can gauge whether you really need to hear this person out now because it's life or death and it has to be done, or it just borders into, you know, abuse and exploitation, where you have to draw the line and just make it clear, this is the way how we can interact, and this is how it's going to be. And so part of love also means self-respect, and also means self-preservation. And then when you honor the agreements also that you have kept, like confidentiality, like, you know, keeping commitments, then you can see, is the other person up for it or not? Or else you may have to, you know, let them find their own path, their own ways. I find that Krishna can do the magic. He can touch people's hearts, but I'm more limited in many ways. But the more I connect with Krishna through the chanting of the mantra, through the reading of the Gita, the more I can try to inspire people and give them some of those pointers and those glimpses. And sometimes we overstep it, you know, sometimes you overshoot this target and you go all out, and then you get something weird back. But it's part of the growing process. It's what we have to face. I mean, as artists, as spiritual beings, as loving personalities, not everything is reciprocated. That's why it's so important that I have communion with the all responsive, all loving, and all kind source with Krishna on a daily basis or on a moment-to-moment basis. So I will not feel rejected or disappointed or abused or exploited, but I'll feel, hey, yeah, you know, thank you for teaching me, and we carry on with that.
That's great.
So thank you for having us, Matt,
Absolutely.
on your
You're welcome.
beautiful talk here.
Yeah.
And we like to encourage all your listeners to take up this experiment, chanting the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and see what difference does it make. I know you're all educated, and you know, make this laboratory experiment and see what it does for you.
Can you give us a quick setting of how, like, where do you put yourself to do the mantra? Do you burn incense? Do you go in a dark room? Is there any particular place that you should do it?
You can do it anywhere, but the best is when you just get up, you take a bath, put on fresh clothes, you sit, and beads also help. So then you can count with beads, and it helps you focus. And then you chant the mantra. And you may do a round of beads, you may do it for a certain amount of time, you may do it for a longer amount of time. Like anything, you get into a practice, and if you like it, it grows on you, and then you expand. But the main thing is to have continuity. Then you build up momentum, because it's not what you do once in a blue moon or once a year, or I did this thing or that thing or the other thing. You know, when was that? 15 years ago. What really matters is, what are you doing every day? You know, like getting up and brushing your teeth and putting on a fresh shirt. It's a good start, you know.
Well, how many minutes would you recommend? 5, 10 minimum? Like, to, you know, let's say it's for someone with an average life, you know.
Yeah, whatever you can dedicate yourself to, whatever you can commit to, you know,
Without going down.
without reducing. Do something and stick to it, and when it becomes easy, then you increase.
Got it.
Then you do more.
I love it.
And there is something like compound, you know, interest. It builds up. You build up momentum as you do any practice, and then after a while, you can carry the mantra on in other types of activities that you do throughout the day, and you keep the same type of frequency, the same type of energy, of like, not, what's out there for me to exploit and control and manipulate and enjoy, but how can I be of service? How can I contribute? How can I make other people's lives better? And then all of a sudden, the smiles come on and the doors open, and people are like, dude, where have you been all this time? You know, I've been waiting for a
I love that
for a monk like you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you guys so much for being here. Let's get a last word from you, brother.
Amazing. I'm very grateful to have Navina Narada here, sharing all of his knowledge and wisdom and realization. I mean, we can talk about these things theoretically, but what good is knowledge if it's not realized? So to actually be around somebody who's been practicing this path of bhakti yoga for over 40 years and deliver it in such a genuine, heartfelt way is really a great honor.
Absolutely.
If anybody's interested, we have a little social media thing on Instagram. It's the Krishna Temple, SATX. Right now, we're not really opening up a whole lot, but we're doing small programs. We're doing some park gatherings. We're going to go on Saturday if you'd like to come. Just take a walk in nature somewhere. We were thinking one of these parks or canyons or rivers or something. So we're doing more of these kind of intimate gatherings with chanting and kirtan. So Krishna Temple, SATX. And then I make music. It's called Aliens with Halos, and that's it's kind of a cool little name. But we do, you know, kind of conscious music, and we have a film, and we do music videos and stuff like that. So hopefully we can collaborate on something or something.
That'd
one
be
day.
great.
That'd be cool. But thank you so much for having us. And if anybody gets a chance to check out Bhagavad Gita as it is, an amazing book, amazing ancient yoga text, speaking about Krishna consciousness.
By Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
Yes, it's a very bona fide edition. There's many editions, but this one's considered to be the most authentic. because the person who translated, the Swami who translated, he's directly in tune with a disciplic succession, an unbroken chain coming first from Krishna down to Lord Brahma, down to Lord Narada Muni, or to Narada Muni, then Veda Vyasa, so on and so forth. He's the 31st in line. And so it's an unbroken chain. It's as it is. It's never been altered, and it's coming from the lips of somebody who's pure, who's walking the talk. So it's powerful.
Thank you so much, guys. That was an incredible podcast. I will say the Bhagavad Gita is an extremely beautiful text. It has helped me, through many trials and tribulations, just listening to it at times. And it's beautiful, if nothing more than a great story to begin immersing yourself in at first. And then if you feel called to do some of the practices, step into that. That's why I love that you guys were here to shed some insight for me, because I'm very much a novice in the realm of the Gita. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having us.
Absolutely.